I heard the first step at 2:17 a.m., a step that shouldn't exist. No creak before it, no heel after it, just a single, clean pressure on a stair I didn't own. My little rental is a single-story craftsman, with a crawl space and a porch that sags like a tired smile. No attic, no basement, no staircase. Still, the sound came again. One step, 2 beats of silence, then a whisper of dust settling, as if something had paused mid-landing to listen for me listening. I didn't turn on a light, I counted in my head. 1. At 2:23 a.m. it returned. 2. By 2:30, 3. The rhythm threaded through my ribs. I count upward with no footsteps in between, as if the house were running a ledger line by line. On 4, the picture frame of my mother, her graduation smile frozen under thrift store glass, ticked slightly on the wall. I texted Mara, my only almost friend since the move. Awake, weird noises. She sent a typing bubble, then nothing. The bubble felt like a door failing to latch. When the count hit 7, the kitchen faucet offered a soft cough, a bead of water forming with the heavy patience of a clock secondhand. I stepped closer, and the air tasted like cold pennies. I put my finger to the bead before it fell. It quivered, holding a perfect dome for a beat too long, then slid down like it had been counted too. The next morning, the porch boards looked as if someone had pressed a staircase into them. Subtle divots, spaced in a rhythm that matched the midnight tally. 7 shallow bruises in wood. At work, I tried to laugh it off. New city, new stress, but when I came home, the number waited on my phone's lock screen in the weather widget, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 7s bookending an empty square. I told myself I was pattern hunting. I told myself to stop counting. That night, the house resumed at 8. I whispered the number before it sounded, and something in the walls answered me with the faintest exhale. It felt like the moment in a conversation when you realize the other person has been repeating your words to see if they fit their mouth. I didn't sleep. By dawn, the count had reached 12. The porch had 12 bruises. And at the edge of my bed, a dust print no bigger than a child's heel waited at the place where step 13 should land. Rules help. You invent them when reality forgets to provide some. Rule 1, don't count out loud. Rule 2, don't mirror the rhythm. Rule 3, don't check for stairs where there are none. I broke all 3 by midnight. The count resumed, 13, and my mouth shaped it before my mind could stop me. The house replied with the second sound folded inside the first, a harmony of weight on wood and breath through plaster. 14 arrived as a tap inside the hallway wall, between studs, exactly where a banister would bolt if a staircase were ever installed. I fetched a flashlight and the hammer I lied about owning on the rental application. At the hallway's midpoint, the paint was newer, 1 tone cleaner than the rest. Someone had patched a missing rectangle, then rolled a coat with lazy wrists. I measured from the baseboard. 13 inches high, 31 across, centered at a human chest, a ledger window, a mailbox slot for secrets. I knocked. The house knocked back, 15. Then again, softer, the way an accountant scratches a correction. When Mara finally answered my earlier text, it was a voice message. Static rolled over her like surf. Don't count, she said, and the audio warped on the D, like a tape dragged by a magnet. Then, it keeps what you give it. Another hiss, another swallow. I had it at my old place. We called it the auditor. The word made my gums ache. I pressed my ear to the patched rectangle. Behind the drywall, pages shifted. I swear I heard a pencil. I cut a neat square. The plaster dust smelled like a forgotten library. Inside, a niche a hand deep, and within it, a cloth-wrapped book bound in gray twine. The cover was cheap canvas stamped with a faded emboss. Counts. I didn't open it. Not then. Not until the house reached 18 and the porch added 3 more bruises and my mother's photo shifted itself an inch off center, as if making space. I cracked the book and found rows of names written in tiny, stern handwriting. Dates, totals. Some entries ended on integers, others trailed off mid-sum. Halfway down a recent page, I found my name, already inked, already carrying a total beside it in pencil. 12. Someone, something, was keeping up. I rubbed the pencil mark with my thumb. The graphite blurred, but the number didn't diminish. It darkened, as if pleased to be touched. I shut the book, and the house gave me 19. At coffee, Mara spoke without raising her eyes, like we were confessing in a borrowed church. "You can't pay it off with silence," she said. "That's the trick people try first. The auditor balances. If you hear 19, it expects you to be 19 plus 1. It waits for the equal sign." "How do you know?" I asked. She chewed her lip. "Because I missed a count once, and it took a year instead." From her tote she slid a Polaroid, long exposed blue. A faint ladder of light ghosted up a wall with no stairs. On the back, her handwriting. It added 365 in one night. Her brother, she told me, never woke. "Maybe yours is weaker," she said finally. "It's new to you. You can still set rules. Offer it a ledger." Back home, I opened counts and wrote beneath my name in the plainest hand I could manage. "I count when I choose. I pay what I owe. Nothing above principal. No interest." It felt ridiculous, like writing a lease to the wind. But the house paused. The midnight number waited 3 extra seconds before landing. 20. When it did, the faucet didn't cough. The photo didn't shift. The porch accepted the bruise like old wood accepts rain. I tested limits. I breathed 21 into my pillow. Nothing. I tapped the wall once at 2:31 a.m. The reply came as 2 quick steps, my tap and its tax, then a stillness that felt like a raised eyebrow. By dawn, my ledger entry had acquired an underline I did not draw. I went to work early just to be where computers were louder than old houses. Around lunch, my phone recorded a voicemail that never rang. I played it twice before I understood the shape of it. A staircase descending in sound, 30, 29, 28, falling towards 0. Every third number was my name. Every 7th was my mother's. The recording ended with the scrape of a pencil and a breath, too close to the microphone, like the auditor had leaned in to see if I was listening. That night, I placed the book on the patch ledge and set my own terms in a whisper. "One more number," I said, "then you stop, until I speak first." The house answered with 22. I kept my eyes shut, counted it inside my teeth, then held out my palm like you do to a skittish dog. The air cooled against my skin. It pressed a weight there, brief and careful. When I opened my hand, the oil from my lifeline had darkened the dust into a new symbol I didn't recognize. 2 short tally marks crossed by a longer line. Not a number, a balance mark. And for the first night since this began, the count stopped. Peace lasted 3 days. I should have known a truce is just a transaction with a nicer handshake. On the 4th night, the count returned at 23, late, irritated like a bill posted after grace. The sound traveled this time, stepping from the living room to the hall, then back again, up an invisible riser and down. The motion traced a geometry I could feel in my bones. I followed it with my own steps, careful not to sink, and the path drew me to the bedroom closet. Old wallpaper inside, a pattern of faded gold keys. Beneath the lowest shelf, a square of carpet that didn't quite match. I peeled it back and found another panel, not patched this time but meant to be opened. A little brass latch green with age. Inside, receipts, not for money, for moments. A ribbon of hospital bracelet plastic with my mother's maiden name. A folded bus transfer from a route I rode at 14, punched at 7:07 p.m. A brittle grocery list I recognized from a former version of my handwriting, milk, rice, apology cake, torn along the edge like it had been paid and filed. The auditor hadn't only kept counts, it had kept collateral. I carried the box to the table and laid each relic like evidence. I felt suddenly audited in the other sense. Not just tallied, but judged. What do you owe when someone keeps your time? How do you pay back days? I wrote a new entry in counts. I reclaim what is mine by balancing yours. I will stand in your place and total you. The house's next step landed wrong, a wobble, as if the auditor had missed the riser, as if the counter had been counted. It came angry after that. The faucet hammered. The porch bruises deepened to dents. My mother's photo slid all the way off the nail and shattered on the rug, glass making a crisp arithmetic that grated like chalk. I swept the shards into my palm and, before I could lose courage, pressed them into the ledger niche on top of the open page. "You want an equal sign?" I said. "I'll give you one." I spoke the numbers the house refused to say aloud. Its own. 23, 24, 25. I counted the pauses, the breaths, the minute hesitations where it corrected itself, and I wrote those down too. For the first time, the auditor faltered. It needed me to keep the count true. It needed me to believe. Half the lights in the house flickered and steadied. In that humming hush, I heard something like chalk turning to dust, like a long equation being erased not from a board, but from the idea of a board. The closet wallpaper shed a single golden key to the floor. Not paint, paper become metal. I picked it up. It was warm and wrong-sized, teeth cut for a lock that didn't belong to any door in my life. 0, I whispered to the empty house. "Let's see what you do with 0. The house didn't step. It waited. 0 is not nothing. 0 is a place to stand. I set the golden key on the porch at dusk. I wrote 0 in the ledger after my name and drew a circle around it so dark the pencil squeaked. Then I did the most dangerous thing. I invited company. Mara arrived with 2 candles and a tiny bell that looked like it belonged on a cat's collar. "Balance," she said when I raised an eyebrow. "We ring when we speak. No accidental counts." We sat on the floor by the ledger niche, candles between us trembling like nervous witnesses. I told the house a story, not a number. Stories refuse to be integers. I told it about the night my mother and I ate the apology cake with spoons straight from the pan, powdered sugar fogging the kitchen, laughing so hard we scared 3 roaches into retirement. I told it about the bus driver who refused my fare because rain counts as a ticket if you are too small to argue. I told it about the time I kept breathing after I didn't want to, and how that counted most. When I ran out of words, Mara rang the bell once. 0, she said. 0 for us. 0 for him. She looked toward the closet like someone looking toward a grave. The house stepped, once, twice, then stopped on an invisible landing where steps shouldn't pause. I felt it search for purchase in the ledger, hunting the place to write what couldn't be written. The key on the porch shivered. "Now," I whispered, and we rang the bell together. I blew out both candles at the same time. In their smoke, the room unthreaded, the way streets look when heat squints them. The count tried to continue, but 0 absorbed it, rounded it, folded it back to its start. 26 contracted to 2, 2 fell through its own floor and hit none. The bruise marks on the porch lifted, as if the wood remembered it had never been touched. Something in the walls sighed, not defeat, relief, like a book closing after the last exam is graded. In the quiet, I slid the golden key back into the closet. The wallpaper accepted it and went still. In the ledger, my name remained, but the number after it evaporated. Not erased, balanced. I slept with my mouth open for the first time since I moved, the kind of sleep that leaves you embarrassed by your vulnerability. In the morning, the faucet drip had cured. The picture frame lay on the rug, uncracked, whole again, the glass remembering glass. I made coffee and didn't count the scoops. At 2:17 a.m., I woke to silence so round it had its own gravity. Then, from the hallway, a sound that wasn't a step. A child's laugh. Curious, distant, harmless. It traveled upward, fading, like a balloon finding a ceiling it liked and staying there. I left the ledger in the wall. Sometimes it hums when the wind gets its sums wrong. Sometimes the closet key warms when a neighbor starts tallying what hurts. When that happens, I make tea, text Mara, and sit by the ledger with the bell. 0 is a place to stand and also a place to return from. If the auditor comes back, it will find I built a stair of nothing in its path, and I will count nothing forever if I must, because nothing, when shared, is not nothing at all.